Welcome to the first Tower Cranes North America Conference and to Miami. For the past decade, we've been holding these events in London and Berlin and now Miami, and we're really pleased to have such a great audience for this first event in the United States. Thank you for trekking all the way down here. We have a lot of people to thank for the support for this conference, especially SCNRA, and for all of you sponsors. And I encourage all of you to please take some time to visit the sponsors' tabletops during the coffee breaks and lunch. They really made this whole thing work for us. Also, I would like to welcome you on behalf of our two magazines, American Cranes and Transport and International Cranes and Specialized Transport, and welcome your chairman for today, Alex Dahm, who is the editor of International Cranes and Specialized Transport. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanne. I'd just like to echo Deanne's comments about the large audience. Thanks very much for coming. It's a great turnout. Very pleased with that. Just for me to start with a few of the usual housekeeping notes. Obviously, phones, please, off or silent. Might need to check. After the end of each speaker's presentation, there'll be a chance to answer questions. If we could do that then, that would be great. And anyone who does, please just state your name and company, please. And you'll see feedback forms on the tables here. Please do complete them. They're very valuable to us to help in judging what we should do for the next conference, the next event. Nothing else but to get on with the event. So I'd like to start with our keynote speaker. Delighted to have Christian Kalani, the president of Morrow Equipment Company, with us today. Christian's been president of Morrow since 1982, and he's helped grow the business into the largest rental fleet of tower cranes in North America. It also has branches in Australia, New Zealand, and Mexico. Before joining Morrow, Christian was president of Liebherr America from 1976 to 82. He started with Liebherr Austria in 1967 before moving to the USA in 1971 to build a new Liebherr factory for hydraulic excavators. Christian's topic today is balancing the risks and rewards of tower crane rental. Please welcome him to the stage.
Icon. Good morning, everybody. It's a wonderful time to be in the tower crane business when you drive around Miami. I think you couldn't have a better view of how the business is doing today. We have obviously gone through a lot of ups and downs over the last few years, but I think we're enjoying today the good times to be in the tower crane business. Thank you, Alex, for the introduction. You made me sound like an old man. I've been in this business now for 53 years, and I'm still enjoying it every day. It's a very exciting business, and there's always new things coming up. So we will go through my presentation, and afterwards, if you have any questions, feel free to do so. The first slide is just an inventory of where we are today. We have a listing here from the ACT magazine from last August showing who are the leaders in the tower crane rental business. Number one is Morrow Equipment with 658 tower cranes. Maxim Crane Works, after the acquisition of MQuip, and Coast Crane with 317 tower cranes. And third place is Biggie Crane and Rigging with 183 cranes. In fourth place, all family of companies with 91 grains, and B&J Arcomet with 88 grains. Now, this is the status from last August, and I'm sure this year the numbers will have changed again. Obviously, there are many other companies which have smaller tower crane rental fleets. So we go to the next slide. Based on that report, which had 50 companies report, we had 1,783 tower cranes reported in the rental fleets. And some companies didn't report, so we estimate that over 2,000 cranes are presently in rental fleets. In addition to that, we obviously have also customer-owned cranes or in-house rental fleets. So overall, we think the market is about 2,500 tower cranes in Canada and the United States. Who are the main manufacturers competing in the market? We have Liebherr, we have Manitowoc Potin, Terex Comedil, and Comanza. Those are the leading manufacturers in the business over here in North America. And we have quite a number of additional crane manufacturers to come into the market, as you will see also from some of the sponsors you have here for the conference. So I think the whole tower crane world has discovered North America as a potential market. The import activity to the United States market based on US Customs data during the last 5 years, there have been more than 500 tower cranes imported into the United States, representing about $525 million in value. Now that number includes all used equipment, accessories, and new tower cranes. So this is not just new tower cranes. So when you average that out, you have about $100 million in new cranes coming into the United States market. Based on the latest data from this year through April, it looks like this year will be another $100 million number of cranes coming into the country. This is just a chart showing the development over the last 11 years. When you look at it, 2007, which was the last peak, we had $122.5 million coming in. In 2008, that was the beginning of the slowdown, about $83 million, and then the complete drop-off in 2009, and then you had about 4 years with very little activity. And then it started to go up again in 2013 with $54 million. And then 2014, $112 million. And in 2015, $147 million. That's the last peak we had. And now, right now, we are about at $119 to $100 million range. My clock is not working down here, so I can keep on talking forever. Where are we in the cycle at the moment? We have had a very steady increase in the tower crane business over the last 5 years. We had a strengthening order volume and utilization across rental fleets. Rental rates have come back up to the same level as where we were in 2007. The broader market demand is here, and it's a much less speculative market than we saw in 2007. I think in 2007, especially in areas like Florida, southern Florida, where you had excessive speculation in condo buildings, and in some other areas, this is not the case, I think, now. The projects are usually financed on a conservative basis. The banks are not as liberal in providing financing if it's not a certain amount of cash up front. So we think that this is a much healthier market than it was 10 years ago. And based on the backlog we have as an industry, we think there's a very good visibility for the next 2 years. So we are very optimistic going forward. This is a chart showing you the Dodge Momentum Index, which confirms what I was just saying. There's a steady increase starting from the bottom in 2010, and you can see the chart is still strongly pointing upwards. Tower crane prices have been increasing. The original equipment cost for tower cranes have gone up substantially since 2007. Some of it is caused by the size of the cranes, additional technology and safety features, but also general inflationary price increases from the manufacturers. Based on that, the return on investment for tower cranes today is not as good as it was in 2007. And we think that would give an indication that tower crane rental rates should continue to go up to justify buying additional equipment for our rental fleets. What are the benefits of tower crane rental business? First of all, the economic life of a tower crane is very long. We estimate 30 years as a standard, and with proper maintenance, you can compare a tower crane to an airplane, which have a very long economic life. The payback period on the tower crane initially is very good. When you buy a new crane, you get your investment back in a very short period of time. Tower crane is a long duration rental asset, and if you achieve high utilization levels, which you not always do, but right now we do, it's an excellent product to have in a rental fleet. The maintenance cost on a tower crane is very low compared with other types of cranes. It's also a very safe product on the job site with many safety features. Like I mentioned before, the return on investment on a tower crane is excellent and better than other types of cranes. We see a continuing acceptance of tower cranes in the market. When you compare it back to 20 years ago or 10 years ago, there's an increasing demand for tower cranes. People realize the economics of a tower crane on the job site. And as we know, compared with other areas in the world like Europe or Asia, we still have a lot of catching up to do here in North America in the application of tower cranes. And like I mentioned before, we have great visibility based on backlogs. Usually contractors sign up way in advance longer-term rental contracts, and I can only speak for Moro at the moment. We are at record levels in our backlog, and we are continuing every month with new record bookings. So we feel very strong that this trend, the uptrend we are in right now, will continue for a while. This is a chart from Rouse Appraisal Service. It shows the various crane types, and I'll use the laser here. I don't know how well you can see the tower crane. This line here is the tower crane values. You're going back to 2007, and you can see right now we are at a very high level. And when you look at the other type of cranes, AT cranes and crawler cranes and mobile cranes and truck-mounted cranes, they all had a severe decline in the last 2 years, mostly caused by the energy price declines. So the tower crane right now is the type of crane which has the highest value retention. what's the role of the manufacturers in our business, in the rental business? North America is primarily a rental market, and the customers are really the rental companies. There's very few contractors who buy tower cranes for their own fleets. So I would think there's no exact statistical data available, but we estimate that 90% or more of the business is related to rental, tower crane rental companies. The technical support, the backup, parts inventory, locally available across North America, also from the manufacturers, is very critical for us to support our activities here. If the manufacturers continue increasing the equipment cost, I have to say that right now, although we have a very good market, the rental rates do not support continuing price increases. Or we have to be able to raise our rental rates. Also, the market so far, because it's such a competitive market, has not allowed to have those rental rates which would support the price increases. What are the challenges facing our business? Obviously, number one is the cyclical nature of the construction market. We also have to be able to expand the application of tower cranes, not only to build office buildings and apartment and condos, but there are other end market uses which are a good growth potential for us. One of the big challenges we are facing is also the liability risk we all carry when we put the crane on a job site. You know, they're usually in a high-density downtown area. If anything goes wrong with a tower crane, you have huge exposure for potential claims. We have an increasing customer demand to get support from consulting, engineering, design, and implementation services to support the customer right from the beginning when they're planning their project. One challenge we also face is back charges and consequential damages claims. We as an industry cannot absorb unlimited back charges and consequential damages claims. It's a constant battle in our industry, and I have to give the contractors credit. They're very inventive when it comes to back charges. Another challenge we face in our industry is a shortage of qualified people. It's difficult to find people who are willing to go out in any kind of weather, any time of the year, have to climb up on the tower crane, work on weekends, on holidays, and have all the technical qualifications to work on tower cranes. So this is another challenge we are facing. Next one on the list is it's a very capital-intensive business. So you need staying power to go through the cycles. Obviously, we have seen many cycles in the past, and I'm sure we will have another one at some time in the future. And if you don't have a strong capital base, it's difficult to survive in our business. And the last one on the list here is the tower crane values obviously fluctuate with the demand trends in our business. Right now, we are experiencing the good times, but we'll see what the future will hold. I talked briefly about liability risks. You know, we have potential claims in case of accidents. If we have an accident where anybody got injured or killed, obviously, we as an industry have to do everything to avoid any situation like this, but accidents unfortunately do happen, and we have to have good insurance for those claims, but insurance is not the only solution. Many claims we as an industry face are really nuisance claims where we didn't do anything wrong. Just because we had a tower crane on the project, to get sued where the tower crane really didn't cause the accident, but we have to defend those claims. They're time-consuming, cost a lot of money with attorneys, and raises insurance costs tremendously. One good solution for that, many projects today have what they call the OSIP, or owner-controlled insurance programs. This avoids cross claims amongst the various contractors and subcontractors on the project. So that's one good way to limit that liability risk. We see strong consolidation in our market. Everybody is aware that Maxim Crane Works has acquired MQuip and Coast Crane, and I think that trend will continue in our industry, and probably only the very fittest and strongest in the long run will survive this trend. In good times, obviously, we have potentially new competitors coming into the market to take advantage of the good market conditions we have right now. This is a question I'm getting asked many times. What is a fair rental rate for a tower crane? And obviously, it depends on which side you're sitting on. The contractor thinks that's too high, 3%. We as an industry think 3% is a justified basic rule, because you don't have the tower crane utilized 100% of the time. You know, even in the good times, you might get 70 to 80% on average. But when you have a declining market, you sometimes, like the last time, some of our rental fleets were only utilized 20 to 30%. So if you average that out over 10 to 15 years and get to 50% utilization rate, then a 3% per month rental rate of the new replacement cost crane is necessary if we want to maintain the service and backup which the customer expects. So I think it's also in the interest of the customers that you have a healthy rental, tower crane rental business backing you up. The tower crane is a very important piece of machinery on the project, and you only realize how important and costly it can be if the tower crane doesn't work. Then all of a sudden the tower crane becomes the most expensive machine you have on the project. Contractual issues which we are facing on a constant basis. One of the big ones is rental start dates. When you sign a contract with a contractor, they have a schedule based on their production, on their construction schedule. And so you put in a rental start date, but that rental start date has to have some teeth. You know, if it is just a flexible rental start date, we as a rental company have to reserve the crane, and if for some reason the rental start date doesn't work, you have reserved the asset and have no income. So we as an industry need to try to get rental start dates which are really commitments, and rental will start even if they don't take the crane. We also need to have some guaranteed minimum rental durations, because from a planning standpoint, we need to know when is that crane again available for the next potential rental. Insurance is a big issue. Obviously, everybody tries to shift the liability risk over to the other party, and that's a big issue today in contract negotiations. We try to be named additional insured on the contractor's liability insurance so that we can not run, that we don't run into claims where you just spend a lot of time and money on an issue which we had nothing to do with it. Obviously, we want to defend any claim if we feel that we have any way contributed to the accident. And like I mentioned before, another contract issue are obviously consequential damages, and back charges. I don't think we can afford, as an industry, to assume unlimited consequential damages claims or back charges. An increasing trend we see is the operate and maintain contracts. Like here in the Southern Florida market, most of the cranes are operate and maintained, where we provide the operators for the contractors. And that seems to be working very well. It eliminates certain issues between the contractor and the rental company. It gives also good control of the tower crane, that the maintenance is done properly. We also provide other services, like erection and dismantling, and also freight to and from the job site. The question is, do we charge enough for all that additional service, or do we just trade dollars and assume additional risk? I mentioned it before, financial stability is very important. If we want to maintain a modern fleet, spare parts, inventory locally available, engineering backup, trained service technicians, safety training and quality control, it's in the interest of all parties, including the manufacturers and the contractors, to provide all of that. And only financially stable companies can do that. Wide acceptance of tower cranes. I mentioned it before, North America is still lagging behind the use of tower cranes compared with Europe and Asia. I think that there's considerable improvement possible going forward. Tower cranes are highly efficient, environmentally friendly, cost-effective, quiet and safe. You could call it a green product. The growth potential we see is also in industrial applications. I think that tower cranes have good potential to expand into those areas. Another trend we see is, the acceptance of self-erecting cranes. That is a trend which we just recently have seen some strong improvements on. Safety and training. We as an industry have a strong obligation to make safety our top priority for all kinds of reasons. Not just for monetary reasons, but also we want to avoid accidents as much as we can. Our industry really depends on a strong safety record. We need to have continuing training of our service technicians. It's highly important that we do that on an ongoing basis and keep up to date with all the latest developments in technology. It's also very important to have trained tower crane operators. And I think we have made great progress with the certification programs, which we have now in the United States. And technology and safety enhancements from the manufacturers are also very important. I'm running out of time, I think. Oh, it's okay. Okay, positive outlook. The current market conditions are highly favorable. We already talked about that. We have strong backlogs. Rental rates have improved back up to where we were in 2007, and we hope that we can get some better rates going forward. Most of our competitors, including Morrow, have added additional tower crane orders to meet the market demand. Recently, Maxim Crane Works announced additional purchases. Biggie had a press release, and also all had just recently a press release of buying more tower cranes. And I can say for Morrow, we also have placed additional orders with Liebherr recently. So we see a very stable market going forward. And on this note, I would say it's a great time to be in the tower crane rental business. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Would you mind hanging on up here for a minute? If that's okay, we can get some questions from the audience. Please, who'd like to ask something? Someone will have a question. Excellent.
Well, one thing we can do and have done, you go out to high schools or have open days where you bring in young students to see, because most people don't know what our industry is like. So if they can see a tower crane in real action, or if you go to a job site with them, they might see a future, because if you want to be a service technician or a tower crane operator, you can make very good money. Some of those people make more money than anybody coming out of college with a high degree. So the potential for young people in our industry is very good. We just need to get the word out to those people for a potential career in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question for Christian? Down the front. Thank you.
For your years of service. But the OSIP exclusions, a lot of times we're getting that coming late in the negotiations. And I'm assuming they realize the liabilities. How do you at Morrow begin to negotiate that issue?
Well, usually it's already set in place before we get involved. It's either you're part of the OSIP or you're not. And there's very little we can negotiate on that, because it's the whole insurance is for the whole project, and either they include the tower cranes or they don't. Some of them exclude the tower cranes, and we are running into that also. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just when you do have a question, please just wait for the microphone to come. That would be great. Thank you. And thank you very much, Christian.
Okay.
Thanks very much.